Happy craft afternoon, everyone. I'm Gina from Gina K Designs, and it's great to see all of you coming in from all around the world. Today's video is a little bit of a niche video because we are talking about a single product and all of the different ways that you can use it. Today we're going to do a deep dive into the Intri-Cut die cutting machine. Now, I've made videos similar to this before on other people's YouTube channels, but I really wanted to have a very extensive video on my own YouTube channel as a place that I can refer people to anytime people have questions about the Intri-Cut and how to use the Intri-Cut with everything from our regular wafer thin dies to embossing folders, both 2D and 3D, to steel ruled dies, and even how to use it to emboss your stencils. So with a deep dive into the Intri-Cut, you're going to learn a lot about this machine. And if you don't have the Intri-Cut, that's totally fine. There are still techniques that you can learn that you can use with your own machine. Maybe some tips and tricks on how to get a better impression, how to emboss with your stencils, and a few other things along the way. Plus, I wanted to let you know that some of the people in the comments when I posted this, that this video was coming, they asked if I would also do a quick little show of the mini Intri-Cut and how to use that and use it the best way. So I'm going to do that as well at the end of the video. And then I did want to let you know that we put our mini Intri-Cut on sale today because I know a lot of people have been wanting to get that one. The mini Intri-Cut is normally $69.95. We took $30 off the machine today, and that's going to go through the weekend. So you can get that machine for $39.95 if it's something that you're interested in. So if you like the big Intri-Cut, but you want something small to have close to your, like just to take into the kitchen or take into the family room when everybody's watching TV and you want to do some mass die cutting, that's kind of a fun little deal to start off the new year. So I just wanted you to know that that's there. No pressure. This video is really just informational. You don't have, this is not selling anything really today, but a lot of you already have this machine and you do have questions. So I did also say, come on and bring your questions when you come over to watch the live today. So Tom will be looking out for the questions. Just put the word question in front, and he's going to ask any questions that have to do with the Intri-Cut and the Mini Intri-Cut to me, and I will try to answer them the best that I can. So before we get started with today's video, let's say hello to Tom. Hey, Tom.
Yikes, what a sale that is.
I know, it's a really good deal, isn't it?
Yes, on the Mini.
Yes, and we have a good stack of them back there, so I don't think that will sell out quickly. So if people are kind of thinking about it, if it's something you want, it should still certainly be there by the end of the video. The baby Intri-Cut is the cutest one. It is the little purse. I would love to have a little purse made after this. Wouldn't that be so cute? Just a little strap, a little crossbody bag. So I'll be talking about this and how to get the best results out of this as well. All right, so how are you doing today, Tom?
I am better than horrible.
Good, good, good. So Tom, if you see any questions, I'm not going to be looking up at the comments too much. I always go back and look at them during the replay. But if you see any questions regarding the Intri-Cut or even the Mini Intri-Cut when I start talking about that, if you could just shout those out to me, that would be really helpful today.
Shouting out.
All right. And do you have a word of the day?
I have a word of the day.
Well, we have to have a word of the day. Even on an informational style video, we need to have a word of the day to break up all the info, right?
Yes.
All right. Well, when you get your Intri-Cut and you take it out of the box, I know some of you got them for Christmas and you got them during our Black Friday sale. So if you got one and you haven't taken it out of the box yet, I'm going to show you exactly what comes in your box. You will have a manual. I don't have one of those with me. But then you're going to have this machine. Now, this machine here is the Intri-Cut. You're also going to get a platform. You're going to get a mat, a cutting mat, and then you're going to get an adapter plate. And this is for steel ruled dies, and I'm going to show you how to use those as well. I'm going to show you what they are, how they're different, and how to use these as well. Then I'm going to show you how to cut with this machine. I'm going to show you a couple of different techniques that you can use for cutting. I'm going to show you how to 2D emboss, 3D emboss, emboss with your stencils, and then we're going to move into the magnetic platform because I know people are interested in that too. And when it's best to use this one that comes with the machine and when it's best to use the magnetic one. All right, so I see this comment a lot. How do I flatten out a warped plate? So the first thing I want to say is do not use boiling water. We have had numerous people reach out to customer service to say that their plates have been completely destroyed by trying to use boiling water. These plates are not meant for boiling water. So if your plate is warped, all you have to do is use the hottest tap water that you have. So turn your tap water on hot and let it run till it's just a little too hot to touch. That's the perfect temperature. Boiling water will ruin this mat. It will destroy it. No boiling water. I have posted that about 13,000 times in our Facebook group because so many people call and they've just destroyed their mats and they're like, how do I fix it? And you can't. It's ruined. You'll need to buy another one. Now remember, cutting mats in general are consumable products. They only last so long. And that's why we sell them separately. You can buy the cutting mat as a separate purchase. They should last a decent amount of time, but the best way to get it to last is to flip it every time you use it. And then I'm going to show you how to cut with your larger dies to help extend the life of this mat. All right? But use very, very hot tap water. Put that hot tap water in a shallow baking pan, like a 9x13 baking pan, and then put the mat into that water. And you can even run more hot water over that. Let it soak in there for a little bit. Then use some tongs to pull it out. And then take your hands and flex the mat back into a straight shape, a flat shape. Once you've done that, take the mat, put it on your countertop, and put your Intri-Cut die cutting machine on top of it. That's really heavy. The Intri-Cut's nice and heavy. It weighs about, I guess about 11 pounds, so it's nice and heavy. And let the mat cool that way. And that will flatten your mat. But once a mat starts to get too warped, it does start to get cumbersome to flatten it every few weeks. And that might be the time where you think about picking up a new mat. Sometimes the reason why these mats warp quickly is because you have your machine set too tight. And the beauty of the Intri-Cut is you can loosen up the tightness of this machine. It doesn't have to be so tight. And then by flipping it every time you use it, you're putting pressure in the opposite direction, and that will help keep it flat. Now, when you take your machine out of the box, you're going to notice on the side that there are two dials. You have a dial that determines which product you're going to use, 3D embossing folders, 2D embossing folders, or letterpress, and die cuts, which are dies, right? Your regular thin dies. Then you have a dial here that's a press and twist dial. And if you go to the right, it makes it tighter. If you go to the left, it makes it looser. Righty-tighty, lefty-loosey. Loosey-lefty. I don't know what that phrase was, but hopefully you'll remember. Right is tight. There you go. And left is loose. Now, when you might notice that you don't have a handle on your machine too. We've gotten a lot of calls where people are like, I didn't get a handle. You did get a handle because the Intri-Cut has some storage built into it. So you're going to open up your plates, and then you see that? You want to push these in. If these aren't pushed in, you're not going to get good cutting. And also by pushing them in, it really keeps the machine steady. It creates suction onto your countertop. Now, the suction doesn't work on those, what's that material, Tom, that some folding tables are made out of? It's like a melamine or something. It's like a plastic, and it kind of is a little bit flexible. It doesn't stick well to those. But your laminate countertops, or your granite, or your marble, or your quartz countertops, regular laminate countertops, anything like that, it's going to stick really well to. If you have that other type of folding table, then I would suggest getting a glass mat because it will stick beautifully to a glass mat. And then open the drawers, and these are great for storage. So you can put your favorite dies in here. You can, if you're traveling, you can put dies and the die cuts that you make in here. Does you advise the cutting mat also work with the magnetic mat? The cutting mat work with the magnetic mat.
So the care of the regular mat.
Yeah, no. Do not boil. Do not put the magnetic mat into water. I'll tell you how to avoid getting warping of that mat. And if once it starts to really warp badly, then I just suggest you replace it. We do sell replacements for those two plates that work together for the magnetic mat. Okay. And yes, I recommend you cut on both sides of the regular mat. So we'll get to the magnetic in just a little bit, but let's work just on what comes in the box. Now that's where you're going to find your handle, all right? So I'm going to just turn this back this way again, all right? I'm going to I'll put it in the center here. Now remember, you always have to push these in. That's what's going to keep it tight. If for some reason it stops sticking, I'll show you what to do here. Let me grab a paper towel. You know, we're dusty, right? As crafters, we're dusty because we have embossing powder, we have glitter, we have, the embossing magic pad, and we create a lot of dust for ourselves. So I suggest putting a little bit of alcohol on a paper towel and wiping the bottom of the feet here, these feet on the bottom. Let me show you what they look like here. These are actually suction cups, and if they're like a silicone, and if they get like oil on them or dust on them, they won't stick anymore. So you want to make sure that you do that, and it might be a little damp now, so we'll see, but There we go. All right, so it's sticking pretty well. That same little technique works great for your ink stand too. Anything with that little silicone foot. Now watch how hard it is. I have to, all right, there we go. Okay, let me just get this back now. It drives me nuts to do like a technique video about a machine and then have the machine crooked on the screen the whole time. All right, so it's on there pretty good. Now, there is a little button here on the handle that you just pull down and then you attach the handle and let go. And now the handle is on there. If you want to take it on the go, you can pull that same button down, pull it straight out, and then you can store it in the machine. And there is a little guide of the direction that the handle goes so that it fits in the machine so you can close the drawer. Okay? All right, so we're going to put that handle on. So a lot of machines come where you need tools and you've got to screw the handle on and stuff. This one, it just pops right on. And some people say that they like this because it stores better on their shelf. They just take the handle off. But if you don't have to take the handle off, then I wouldn't worry about it. Okay, so this is stuck down here really nicely. Now, the first thing I want to show you is just basic die cutting. Now, you can die cut two ways with this machine. Let me back up just a little bit. All right. I'm going to get my little zoomer here and back up so you can see the whole thing. So there's two ways that you can die cut with this machine. Let me just get a die here. I guess I'm all prepared except I don't have a die. Let's use the happy die. Here's a happy die. We'll make this a happy video. Okay. So I'll grab a little piece of cardstock here. Let's see what color. I'll use yellow because as long as we're being happy and cheerful, we might as well have a happy, cheerful color. So there's two ways that you can do this. You can put the platform down first. Now see here where it says this is not a cutting surface? See all my cut marks in here? That's because I've screwed up lots of times. And it's okay if you do. If you cut into the platform, it's not going to ruin it, okay? You can use either side of the platform. You can see I've cut into both sides because I don't always follow my own instructions. But this is really just your platform and it's not meant to be a cutting mat. A cutting mat will actually preserve the integrity of the die. Okay, because this is meant to be cut into, this is not. They're made of different materials. All right, so one way that you can do this is you can place your die on its back with the blade side up and put your cardstock on top. Then put your cutting mat on top of that. Now the die is going to cut up into the cutting mat. You want to make sure you have your dial turned to die cut, and I just have it right in the center at 0. I always recommend that you start at 0. You don't have to tighten it or loosen it at first. See how that cuts for you based on the die that you're using, all right? So I'm looking at this and I'm saying, all right, well, this cut okay. That cut pretty well, pretty nicely there. Let me get my little poker. I had to use something complicated, right? That needs to be poked out. But there, I got a great cut out of that. It cut smoothly and beautifully. Now, the other way that you can cut, which people like to do this a little bit more because they use this machine with coordinating dies. And it's very hard if your die is upside down and your design is here to lay it on top and center it, right? So what I would recommend is instead of doing that configuration, I'm going to flip my mat over. All right. Put your cardstock down, your cutting mat down, and then your die facing down. And then instead of having your platform on the bottom, just put your platform on the top. Okay, either way is going to work really well. But when you're doing coordinating dies, you kind of like to see where you're putting your die. And then once you have it in place, sometimes you don't want to flip it over because you're afraid it's going to shift or move. And that makes total sense. I mean, nobody wants that, right? So here we go. We've got another really nice cut there. Okay, so now we know how to cut a die. But let me show you how to preserve the flatness, the not allowing this to warp or, warp as quickly with some of the bigger dies. So let me get one of our bigger dies, like our master layouts. Now I know I had them here yesterday. So here's a master layouts die. This is from Master Layouts 2. Let me get a piece of cardstock here. It doesn't really matter the color. I'll just grab one that was sitting here. This is some sun-kissed coral. Now, when you have your cutting mat and your piece of cardstock and your die face down and you put it in straight, and we tend to do this, right? Especially when we're trying to line up a background and we want everything to be straight, we kind of do this and we have it straight, all right? This is not going to cut as well, and it's going to be forced as you try to push it through the machine. So what I suggest is using a low-tack tape. I use something like Masking Magic strips. These are our Masking Magic strips. You can learn more about those on our website. You can also use something like pixie tape or some washi tape, some low-tack tape. I always keep one strip of it on the top of my machine just because I use it so often. Make sure your die is lined up on your pattern, if this was patterned the way you want it, right? By using some Masking Magic. But then always turn these big dies on an angle like that. So one corner, one point is going in first. This is like a roadblock for the rollers, and it really makes you have to like turn the handle and crank. But when you turn the whole panel on an angle like this and you've got the point going through first, it rolls through like butter. It really does. So let's go ahead and roll that through. And if you're concerned that you didn't get a good cut, because it does kind of go through pretty easy. I mean, honestly, I don't even have to hold on to the machine, I'm just kind of cranking it through. You can go back the other way to help it a little bit. All right, and you can see I got a really nice cut. This is our 100-pound cardstock, so it's a thick cardstock. I got a really nice cut. All the edges are super smooth here. No problems at all. But I did it on an angle. Now, when I cut the next one, I always have to remember to flip over my plate, and that's going to keep my cutting mat flat. And not just for the Intri-Cut, for the Spellbinders machine, for your Big Shot, for any of the machines that you have, by flipping that plate that you cut into, and flipping the top plates too, because they have more complicated plate systems. Most of those have like a base plate and then a plate that goes underneath and then a plate that goes on top. By flipping the plates every time you use them, that really does help keep them straight. All right. So that is how to die cut with the Intri-Cut die cutting machine. Now the next thing I want to show you is how to 2D emboss. We're going to do that next. So I have a bunch of little things here. Here is a 2D embossing folder. This is one of our embossing folders called Snowflakes. And I will get that other piece of peach cardstock. We're going to have peach snowflakes. And I'm going to put that inside this 2D embossing folder. Okay. Now what we want to do is we want to turn this dial from die cut to 2D embossing. Just like that. All right. We no longer need a cutting mat because we're not cutting. We only need the embossing folder on top. One platform, one embossing folder. Now I'm sorry, that might not be right. I'm thinking of the 3D. We do need the plate. Okay, so now I'm gonna crank this through, and you're gonna be able to feel just a little bit of tension. I still have that set to 0, like straight up and down, the tension knob. But you'll feel it go through. And if it feels like nothing, tighten it up a little bit. If it feels like it, you could feel it going through, it's probably just fine. If you start to crank it through and it doesn't feel like it wants to go, and you start having to lean on it and really crank the machine, it's too tight. It'll bend your folder. You have the opportunity then to take this bottom dial, push it in, and then turn it lefty-loosey. All right? So now let's see what that looks like. Let me get in here real close. Can you see that? So I've got my 2D embossing. Maybe I shouldn't have used this color. Let me do a deeper color or a brighter color. See if I have a piece here that might show up better. Sometimes the lighter colors and white don't look that vivid on our camera. All right. Now, even when you're embossing, when you're using that top plate, still continue to turn it over. And if you feel like that embossing, I think it's good. I like it. I think it looks really good. But if you want it even tighter, you can just go ahead and righty-tighty, turn it up a little bit. But again, don't turn it up so hard that it feels like you can't crank it through. See how I don't even really still have to have my hand on the top? I don't have to like really be putting that pressure on there. I'm going to take it back the other way. Okay. I think you'll be able to see a little bit better on this. That's the only thing about having these no glare lights is I feel like sometimes things get washed out. That you can see that better, right? That color is just better to see. So you can see the beautiful 2D embossing. Now, a lot of people ask what the difference between 2D and 3D embossing is. So embossing folders that are 2D have two different levels. They've got the flat level, which is nothing. It's where the two pieces of plastic meet together. And then they have an extra dimension that's the impression. And every bit of this impression sticks out of the paper at exactly the same dimension. So everything is exactly the same. It protrudes. Also on the other side, it's pressed in. So if you like that letterpress look on the back, you know, that kind of pressed in look, it's even. Everything is even. With 3D folders, you get some coming in this direction, you get some going in the opposite direction, and then some you get coming in this direction, and then another layer on top of that. So the 3D has a more realistic look to it, but the 2D folders, I think since 3D folders came out, a lot of people forget how pretty these 2D folders really look. So get your 2D folders out and give some of those a second look. There's so many fun techniques, and I have videos on 2D embossing folder techniques on my channel. I'm going to share that video in the description here of my 2D embossing folder techniques and my 3D embossing folder techniques videos so that you can find them easily right here on this video. All right. So I'll address all the mini Intri-Cut questions as soon as I get to that machine, I promise. All right, so that's 2D embossing. Now, let's move to stencil embossing. So you can actually get an impression with your stencils. I don't know if you're going to be able to see this better on white with a little ink, or we'll try it here with some of this sea glass cardstock. We'll see how it works. But I am going to show you how to do that same kind of look, but using your stencils. And this opens up a whole world of fun for you if you have lots of background stencils in your collection. So here is a stencil. This one is called, I'm going to need to put my glasses on for this. Brienne probably already knows. She probably already knew what I was going to use before I even used it. Oh no, Brienne, it's not written on here. This must have been a prototype or something. I think it's called Happy Hearts, maybe. But Brienne will find it and she'll link it. I know she will. Hi, Brienne. Thank you for being here, my love. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we are going to add the optional silicone mat. This silicone mat allows you to emboss with both your dies and your stencils. So let's go ahead and take this out of the package. Okay. And if this mat ever gets full of little paper fragments, little frays of paper, it won't hurt it at all, but you might not like the way it looks. I just get some tape and I just run a piece of tape over it and it pulls all the fragments out so that it'll look brand new again. I don't have any tape here with me to show you my old one, but all right, so you're going to use your platform and you're going to put your silicone mat on your platform next. All right. Now you are going to take a piece of cardstock and you're going to take your stencil and put your stencil on top. Now the reason why you have to have that silicone mat underneath there is because if you don't have a silicone mat, then there's nothing for that stencil to squish into. With an embossing folder, you've got the negative side of the embossing folder. Does it have to be a Gina K silicone mat? I don't know. I don't know the answer to that because I know that silicone mats are different thicknesses. So all I would say is if you have a non-Gina K Designs one, you can try it, but never, ever, ever force it. Okay, if it feels forced, then I would say don't do it. Now I have this set to 2D emboss because we're still embossing. And I have it still tightened up a little bit, and I want to see if this feels tight enough for me. Oh yeah, lint roller would work really well too, Nancy. Good thinking. All right, now I don't know if that's a good enough impression. So I would use maybe just some scraps of paper until you find the right impression for you. So we could take a look at that and see if we got a good impression. I don't think, I see it, but I don't think that that's tight enough. Can you see the hearts in there? I don't think that that's tight enough. So let's go ahead. Let me get a piece of white cardstock. I hate wasting all my beautiful colors. I hate wasting any cardstock, but you know, we're going to tighten up this machine, and I've got a lot more white cardstock than I do colors. All right, so we're going to go in. We're going to put that stencil on top. And then I'm going to tighten this machine way up, way up. I have mine set right now to the -4 mark. And I'm going to send that through again. Now it feels a lot tighter now. Well, you can tell if your Intri-Cut is set too tight if you're not able to turn the handle and you really have to start pushing and pushing and pushing. Okay, now you can see we've got that impression on there. You can see on the back. Let me do one thing to make you see this better. I've got a little ink here. I'm just going to run some ink over this just so that you can see the design. See that? So that's your positive side. Your positive side. Here's your negative side. So this is more of the reverse look. So here on the back we've got white hearts with the solid color. On the front we've got the turquoise hearts. So it's kind of a fun way to use your stencils, and you'll be able to see the impression much better than I can show you on camera, especially on white cardstock or even the colored cardstock. I mean, I did get an impression on here, but for some reason it's just really hard to see, to show you. Can you see? It looks really nice in person, but it's not as deeply embossed as an actual embossing folder, so it's just a little harder to see in the bright light. But you can see it if I put ink on it. So I could prove that it was there. Okay, I want to just move this out of the way. So that's how to emboss with your stencils.
And the minus setting equals more pressure?
Yes, minus setting equals more pressure. It's like you're taking away space in between, so you're tightening it up. But I always think going to the right is tight, going to the left is loose. Righty tighty, lefty loosey. So hopefully that will help. It says on there though, it's not like it's just numbers. It actually says on there tight, and then on the left it says loose. So if you need it to be more loose, you go toward the word loose. If you want it to be more tight, you go toward the word tight. Okay, So that is how to use your stencils. That just opens up a whole world for you of fun ways to add some more texture to your designs. Okay, let's see. I want to show you next 3D embossing folders, and I want to show you a couple of different brands, all right? So the first one I want to show you is, I have this one. This is a Tim Holtz 3D texture fade embossing folder. So for these, I think these are, who are these by? Are these by, Ellison. Okay, so these are by Sizzix. These are the Sizzix ones. These need the 3D setting. And a lot of you have Sizzix products and Sizzix embossing folders. They need the 3D setting. So I'm turning this up to 3D. Now I am going to put it back to 0 because you always want to start at 0 because you don't know what's going to happen, right? Now when you get to that 3D setting, I'll take this piece here and just shorten it up a little bit so it fits in the folder. And then I'm going to open up this folder, put this in. It's a little wide for the embossing folder, so I'll trim it down a little bit. But you can put your panel into this embossing folder. Now, this is where you don't need a top plate. You only need this bottom plate, your platform. And then I would say, I'm gonna feel how it goes through. All right, I can feel already that that's too loose for me. I'm not feeling enough tightness there. So I'm gonna turn it up to turn the tightness dial to -2. I want -2 pressure. And then I'm gonna send that through. Now I'm still able to send it through nicely. It's not hard to send it through. But I wanna see if this embossing folder, if that was enough pressure. Okay, now I feel like it's good pressure. That's actually very beautiful. But I'd like it to be even a little tighter. So the beauty of the Intri-Cut is you're not cutting more paper shims. I'm just going to turn it up a little bit more. Just a little bit more. And I'm sending it through again. Yes, the silicone mat is sold separately. That is a separate purchase. Not everybody wants to do those techniques, but if you do, we do have that. Now let's look at that. Okay, now I've got more detail in those leaves. But you know what? Let's turn it up a little bit more. Just a little bit more.
Question, can you color the stencil after you emboss it, or should you do it before?
Oh, you can color it after. Sure, you could definitely color it after. Now look at all of that gorgeous texture. And that is with a Sizzix Tim Holtz 3D embossing folder. That's very deep. See how back here, I think you can tell a little bit more with the 3D. See how deep that leaf is compared to that leaf? It's like really deep in there, but this one isn't quite as deep. That's that 3D thing that I was talking about, how everything on this one is exactly the same amount of texture. This is like deeper over here and a little bit more shallow here. Okay. So that is using the 3D setting. Now, some of the old Simon Says Stamp embossing folders, I don't know what this one is called, but it's just got snowflakes on it. They can actually be used with that same 3D setting. Some of them. Some of them need the 2D setting. So let's go ahead and do this one, because this one uses a 3D setting. And the only way that I know the difference is I just try it. You know, I'll run this through on the 3D setting, and if I'm not getting enough pressure, then I know that particular one needs to go down to 2D. But I'm going to go ahead and run this through.
Question, does Heart Stencil come as embossing folder and or die and stamp as well? If not, any plans in the future?
We do have a Heart embossing folder that is the same pattern, but it's a little bit smaller, so they don't match up. There isn't a plan to do that for that particular one in the future, since we already have the embossing folder and we already have the stencil, but they don't line up. Okay, so now I've got some really nice snowflakes there. You see that really good impression there? So that was on the 3D setting. So Simon Says Stamp, some of their folders use the 3D setting. I believe some of Altenews embossing folders and some other companies will also use the 3D setting. Okay, you have a question?
Question, do you ever mist your paper with water before embossing?
I don't, but some people recommend it. And it really depends on the brand of the paper. So some paper cracks really easily. Our paper doesn't really crack very easily. It really works nicely. And I think our paper has a nice, I don't know if it, I think a lot of it might have to do too with the humidity of where you are, because if you got enough humidity, your paper has already got that. This just adds humidity to your paper. So if you want to, you can use the distress sprayer, and you can do a light mist over your cardstock, kind of just like that. Or some people put a little bit of alcohol into a bottle and use that instead because it dries so much more quickly. I don't like putting alcohol in a mister bottle though, because I don't like to breathe in alcohol. I guess I don't mind breathing in the water, but I don't like breathing in the alcohol. I'm a little sensitive to it. So I would just use a mist of water. But you can see here, there's no cracking or anything on any of these. See? No cracks at all anywhere. So, I don't necessarily feel the need to mist. But if you want to mist, go ahead and mist. And again, different paper brands are also different. A higher quality paper won't need as much misting as a low quality paper. I don't know why that is, but you could definitely feel the difference between a good quality cardstock and a quality cardstock. All right, so now I'm going to move into a 3D embossing folder by Gina K Designs. So our 3D embossing folders are a little different because they use the 2D setting, and I know that's a little bit counterintuitive, but it's the way it works best for us. So I'm going to go ahead and, oh, I have a die stuck on here, so let me pull this die off. There we go. Now I'll do this white piece from, well, maybe I could do this piece. I'm having luck with the turquoises. This teal color seems to be pretty good. So I'm going to put this into my embossing folder. And again, if you want to do the mist, I'll do the mist just so that we have one done with mist. See, the reason I don't like the mist is you see the water droplets on there? I don't like that. I always feel like that's going to make my paper pill, but we'll see. All right, so I'm going to stick that in there. Okay. And now I'm going to put this on top of the platform. I've got it set to 2D, and then I'm going to start at 0 and see how that feels. Now you can tell our embossing folders already feel tighter going through on 2D. But it's because it's a 3D embossing folder. But if you use 3D, it kind of slides through a little too easily and it doesn't give you as deep of an impression. Yes, you can use watercolor paper for sure. And that's probably better if you're going to mist it, to use watercolor paper. Okay, so I'm just sending it through twice. And now we can see that beautiful deep impression. So that's on 2D. It is a really nice impression, isn't it? You can see the back here. No cracking at all. Nothing is cracked. And some people will say, well, what about this leaf? It doesn't look like it's embossed as much as this leaf. Well, that's because this one has a lower profile and this one has a higher profile. This is made to be more shallow. This is made to be deeper. That's the 3D thing. If you turn it into the light in different ways, though, you still can see all the details, so you know it's completely embossed. All right. So that one is the Gina K Designs embossing folders and a lot of the Simon Says Stamp embossing folders and the Memory Box embossing folders. Now, if you forget that, at least on the back of ours, it does tell you turn the setting dial to 2D emboss, and set the tension dial to 3. That loosens it up a little bit more. I have my dial set right now at 0, and it's working great. So I have mine a little tighter than this, but we put that on there just so nobody bends anything. We don't want anybody to bend their embossing folders. And you can see, I mean, they're always going to bend a little bit. Can you see? They'll bend a little bit. Don't worry about that. I mean, you're putting pressure on. Does anybody else, like when you use your die cutting and embossing machine, especially when you're embossing, I mean, it's like a mammogram. You know, it's squeezing so hard, these poor embossing folders. I'm so sorry. But, you know, when you think about it, the pressure that it's putting on there, it is going to bend the plastic just a little bit. What you don't want to do is send it through so tight that your embossing folders kind of like flip up like this, like they curl up. That's too much. So always cut back on the pressure. Try it. If it's not tight enough, you can always run it through a second time and a third time and a fourth time. Just don't go too tight right out of the gate and preserve your machine. I mean, people have broken plates, people have broken handles, not just on my machine, on other machines by going too tight with too many shims and things like that. But you can see we can get these absolute beautiful impressions with the Intri-Cut die cutting machine. All right. So now I want to talk about steel ruled dies, okay? So a steel ruled die, I have to remember this configuration because I don't use these dies. I have them only for the purpose of testing them with this machine. That's why I bought them, because I wanted to make sure that all of our friends that have drawers of the old-fashioned steel ruled dies would still be able to use them. This is a steel ruled die. Here is one by Sizzix, and it's these. Do you remember these big box dies? They have this felt on them, and then when it runs through the machine, it puts pressure on this, and the blade comes out as it's going through the machine. I mean, these are, people still use them. School teachers use these kinds of dies for doing basic shapes and stuff. And you'll notice that the shapes on these steel ruled dies are very basic. Can you see? I don't know if you can see this one. This is a tag. I'll cut this one, but this is a tag. So when you're doing this, you're not going to use your platform. I don't believe. Let's try it. I don't think you're going to use your platform. So we're going to keep this at 2D. And if this doesn't work, we'll play with it a little bit. Then you're going to put your cardstock down on your cutting mat. It doesn't matter what direction the words go. But kind of look at your plate. Is it bowing at all? No. So we're doing good. Flipping it up and down. And then we're going to put this Biggs die, this steel ruled die, on top. And then this is where you're going to use that adapter plate. It says right on there, for steel ruled die only. This is not a cutting surface. So you don't want to cut into this. You want to cut into your cutting mat. And that's going to go on top. That becomes your top plate. And let's see how this feels going through. I don't feel like that's enough pressure. I know I can't turn it to die cut because it'll never go through. So it has to be on 2D, but we're going to crank up the pressure a little bit. So I cranked it to the -2. All right. Let's see. I'm not sure why you're having problems with the embossing folder, that the whole thing has patches. I'm not sure. If you're following this exact instruction, I think it should be working. So I still feel like this is going through super loosey-goosey, but let's see if it cut. Okay, yeah, it cut. It cut like 300 times, but it didn't cut the bottom. So I'm going to cut another one, and I'm going to turn it up. I'm going to turn it up again. Let's flip the thing over, and then I'm going to turn it all the way up, and we'll see if that's enough. Now, here's the thing about each one of these settings. I think maybe I wasn't going all the way to the end. That might have been what happened. I was just going like halfway, like 3/4 of the way in, and maybe I didn't actually catch the bottom. We'll see. Yeah, that was the problem. That was a me problem. So there we go. Here's a tag die. This is a die by Sizzix. It is called Bookmark Plain. Okay, so these are the kind of dies that school teachers use a lot. These are the kind of dies that you find sometimes in offices where they have to cut like certain tabs and things like that. The difference between a steel ruled die and a wafer thin acid wash die, first of all, the process to make them is completely different. These dies in here, the blade itself is actually just a blade that looks like an old metal cookie cutter, and it's just bent into a shape. Acid wash dies like these thin, wafer thin dies, these are actually created using UV light and acid, and there's a washout process that the acid eats away everything except the design. So it's a very complicated process, and this process is not actually done here in the United States. It was at one time by just one company, but they have since gone out of business. You can still have steel ruled dies made here in the United States. They're very expensive to have them made here, but you can get them made. But they'll only do basic shapes. So a lot of companies that maybe cut their own labels, they'll get a big steel ruled die, and these steel ruled dies can cut several sheets of cardstock at a time because the blade is it's deep, it's real deep, and it's, it can really put pressure. But these are the dies that we like the best as card makers because we like the detail and we like the coordination and stuff like that. So these are it's just a different type of thing. At one time, this is all there was. Quilters use these a lot to cut their quilt pieces. People use these for felt and other types of fabric. So they can cut thin plastic, they can cut thin chipboard, really thin chipboard, very, very thin. But they're powerful, but we just don't use them very much in card making these days because we like the intricate stuff.
Question.
Yes.
Will my Cuttlebug plates work with the Intri-Cut?
No, they won't. The plates themselves may work. These bases are different thicknesses. Now, that being said, if you have this platform or you have a friend that has an Intri-Cut, bring your Cuttlebug over and try. I actually think the Cuttlebug opening might be just a tiny bit smaller. I used to have the Cuttlebug, and it's a great machine. And very similar in style. I love that machine, and you used to be able to close it up like this, and that's one of the features of the Cuttlebug that I loved was that it was small and you could, put it places really nicely. But I don't believe that they will work. Now, I say that, but you do have different dials, and you can loosen the top dial and tighten the bottom dial. So really, each one of those segments, die cut to letterpress, you've got all the way tight to all the way loose, so you've got everything in between. Then 2D to 3D, you've got those settings, tight to loose and everything in between. There are really a million different configurations here, right? Because you might be able to get it to work, but I can't say 100% that it will, and I wouldn't want you to buy something like our replacement set and then have it not fit in your machine. So, alrighty. Now let's talk about the magnetic plates, all right? So the magnetic platform is different than the regular platform, and some people will buy the magnetic plates. They'll buy the replacement plates, and they'll try to use the replacement magnetic plates with this white platform, and that will not work. And then they'll say, oh, your magnetic cutting plates don't work, but it's because they didn't buy the magnetic mat set. That's the original one that you need to buy first. That has the magnetic cutting mat, the clear top plate, and the magnetic platform. You can't use the regular platform with the magnetic stuff, all right? This platform goes with this plate, and it goes with this adapter only. If you're not using these, You can't mix and match, all right? Okay. So when do I use the magnetic cutting plate system? I use the magnetic cutting plate system only for dies that have coordinating stamps. And here's why. Because most of the time the dies that have coordinating stamps are small, right? They're little flowers, they're little people, little critters, you know. Sometimes they're a little bit bigger flowers, but they're not the big rectangles and the, you know, the big slim lines and 5x7s. Because the reason why is because this magnetic, you don't need to position, you know, a black layer for behind a Master Layouts 2 panel. You can tape down a Master Layouts 2 panel and get it to go through straight. But with the coordinating stamps and dies, you have to be very precise, right? Getting those through and trying to get that good, nice, even perimeter. So this one, the original one, it's easy to do that hot water technique to flatten it back out again. And those big dies are really what makes those plates curl. So if you can flatten this one back out and you can use all your big dies with this one and just keep this one for the little dies and the coordinating dies, you're going to preserve the life of this mat. So that's why I choose to use this system only with coordinating dies. And the whole idea with the coordinating dies is that you want your die to stay in place. So having that magnet is going to make a difference because you don't really need to use tape. Sometimes I even use tape anyway, but most of the time you don't need to. So let's find a little quick stamp and die here that we can cut out, and I'll show you. So I'm just going to cut out the word thanks here. This is a stamp set called Ornate Birds. I love this stamp set. I love the greetings in this stamp set too. So I'm going to stamp this with some black onyx ink. Do I think that there is a place for both sets of plates in your craft room? I definitely do. I think it's great to have a magnetic mat for this type of cutting. If you can only afford the original system, you're totally fine. Just use some masking magic to tape it down. So the magnetic mat is great, but it is a luxury, right? The original system, you can do everything that the magnetic system can do. The magnetic system doesn't do more techniques, it just makes it easier. But I mean, really, if budget is a question, just go with the original. You'll be fine. Right. So now let's open this again here. Okay. Now remember, this is a strong magnet. See that? I mean, it is super strong. The other thing I like about our magnetic system versus some that I've tried in the past, and I'm not saying that all are bad, I'm just saying that some are designed with magnets in certain spots, like big magnets underneath. And if you've ever tried one of those, they can be a little frustrating because you'll lay your die down and it'll jump to where a magnet is. This entire plate is magnetic. So wherever you lay the die down, it's going to stick. The back is open. That just makes it a little bit lighter. It's got like these little dots in it. It makes it like openings. It's like a honeycomb kind of thing. And that goes down first. Your magnetic mat itself, it'll tell you on the back, this is plate M, this is not a cutting surface. This is the cutting surface, all right? So you don't want to cut into the black part. And then you're going to position your magnetic mat right on top of the magnetic platform, okay? Once you have those in place, you don't have to take them apart anymore. And then we're going to lay this down here. Let me find the coordinating die. That's the whole point, right? Okay. So now you'll be able to feel it grab. And now that's going to hold it in place. All right, so see? It's holding it in place because it's magnetic. Now I'm going to turn my machine back to die cut, and then I'm going to turn it back to 0. Then you have a clear plate that goes on top. Why does this have 3 plates? It's because we needed a platform and a magnetic mat together in order to have a cutting surface, because you can't cut right into that magnet. So then we also need a top plate. So now I have my top plate on top, and I'm going to crank that through. And that should have held it in place. Looks like it's looking pretty good. And then we got a nice cut there. And see how it's perfectly centered? Because it was easy, nothing moved. It's stuck to this magnetic mat. Now, if I'm going to cut this again, our tendency as crafters is we like center. We like to center things, right? So we go back to that same spot. What I would recommend is move it up a little bit and off to the side and cut your next one. And then your next one after that, move it down a little bit and cut it down here. And then your next one, move it up here and cut it up here. That's going to help prevent the mat from warping by moving your images around the mat as you cut. All right, so that is the beauty of the magnetic mat. Now, can you use the magnetic mat for other things? Yes, you certainly can. You can use it for embossing folders. You can use it for anything that you use the other one. You just have to have these 2 plates together as the bottom plate. But I will say, and I'll say this 1,000 times, this mat is more expensive to replace. You can't do the hot water trick with it. And the other plate comes with the machine. That one, buying a new mat for it is cheaper. It's easier to flatten it out. So I would say just preserve this one for this type of die cutting, this type of intricate, exacting kind of die cutting where you want everything centered, and then put it away and just keep it for that. We do lots of coordinating stamping, right? We die cut pretty much everything we stamp, so you'll get a lot of use out of this. But why warp it faster than it needs to be? Okay, so now I think I've demonstrated all the different things that this machine can do. Now, before we go any further, Tom, come on in for a second. I know I haven't given much air space to breathe. Why do you need 2 magnetic plates? Is she referring to why there's 2 together? Because
she might mean magnetic versus plain.
Well, I think I explained.
Two magnetic plates, the base and the.
Oh yeah, because you can't cut into the base. And you need a platform. You need something stiff and sturdy to go against your bottom roller. You can't have a bendable plate. This is bendable. It's real flexible. And you can't have that. So you can only have one. So by having these 2 together, it equals the platform of the other one. Okay. All right. So Tom, how about a word of the day?
Word up.
I see Dawn. Oh, word of the day.
You know what that means?
Oh, no. Here we go.
Is this the one?
I don't know.
Oh, this is the long one.
Oh. I gotta get my headphones on. I'm missing out.
Your fingers, hey, hey, hey. We've got the word of the day. Bright and breezy, here to stay. Word up, word of the day. Oh, what a delight. Word of the day, it's shining bright. Catch it quick, don't let it stray. Come on and shout the word of the day. Ba-ba-ba-ba-da. It's clever, it's fun. Ba-ba-ba-ba-ba-da. For everyone, your mind's the place where it will play. Hip hooray for the word of the day. Bye-bye.
All that.
All that for a word. It's better be a good word of the day.
It's not.
It's not. All right, we're ready. Lay it on us anyway.
All right, hold that thought, folks.
Okay.
Okay, so what do you call, what's another word for a particularly persnickety, almost harsh proofreader?
Oh, I don't know.
A shredditor. You need those around here, don't you?
I do. I have so many typos all the time.
The shredditor.
Oh my gosh.
Back.
Yes.
That was too much. Too much.
We didn't need that long of a song.
Yeah, that was the wrong button. There's always a wrong. There's always a wrong button.
Always a wrong button for
in the
sure.
dead space.
The shredditor. All right, very good. I like it. That's good. Okay. Well, now I'm going to move into showing you the mini Intri-Cut.
I just saw before we went into that diversion, someone asked about vellum.
Vellum. Oh, vellum just like paper. You cut vellum exactly the same way as paper. I don't know if I have any vellum. Do I have a piece of vellum? Here's a piece of vellum. Yep, I would cut vellum exactly the same way as paper. Let's just grab a little piece of vellum here. Now, one thing I know that some people have a little bit of trouble cutting vellum, and also they have a little bit of trouble cutting acetate. So here's my little trick. If you have acetate or vellum that's hard to cut, is you can put a piece of cardstock underneath it, and it actually makes it a little easier to cut. So here's my piece of vellum. Here's my little piece of acetate underneath. And then I'll just cut this die because it's sitting right here. Okay, I have it on die cut. I'm going to turn it just a little bit tight, and I'm going to cut that. All right. So having that piece of cardstock underneath for some reason helps the vellum cut a little bit better. See that? There we go. So there's your piece of vellum. Just having that underneath. And I mean, you know, you don't have to waste what you cut underneath. If you put a white piece under there, you can do my my template die cutting system for mass production. I'll link that video too so that you have that. All my die cutting tips and tricks videos I will link in here. 2D embossing, 3D embossing tips and tricks, and die cutting tips and tricks. So you can use that, and then you could stamp on that afterwards if you wanted to. So that is a way, both with acetate and with vellum, because sometimes they don't cut all the time. They just bend a little bit. So hopefully that was a helpful tip for you to get your vellum and your acetate to cut better with a die. All right. Embossing with a die. Oh, embossing with a die. Now I don't know I didn't practice that, so I don't know the exact configuration, but we can give it a try and see. Let's see what we can do. I don't have the exact configuration, but let me see if I even have an appropriate die for that here. I left so many dies at home. Let's try a snowflake and see how that works. So the way that I would do this, and we'll see if it works, is I would put my platform down, and then I would put my silicone mat, and then I would put my cardstock down, and then I would put my die down, blade side down. And I would have this set to 2D, and I would put it at 0 because I don't know if it's going to work or not. And then I'm going to send it through and see what happens. I'm doing it right now, Beth. Now that feels a little loose to me, so we might want to add a little more tension, but let's see how it looks. So we are, well, that's going to look good. All right, so you can see that in there. We've got all of that texture in there. So that is embossing. It's really not embossing, it's debossing because you're putting pressure in. And this might not be the perfect one to do this with. Let me pick another one. We'll see. We'll try it a couple times and we'll go over it again one more time. Oh, let's see what I have. Didn't really plan for that. But I might have a plate here that would work. Let's see. Let me see if I have a plate that might work. Let's try this one. This is complicated. So this is a snowflake cover plate. Let's go ahead and let's do it on a piece of white cardstock, and then we can add a little bit of ink to it to see what it looks like too. Because I always feel like sometimes with embossing, it's a little bit more fun when you see it with ink and you can actually see the texture.
Diane asks, aren't you worried about cutting the silicone mat?
No, not at all. It doesn't cut the mat at all. You can see it doesn't cut. The mat is made for this. It's made for a blade to press into it without going all the way through. Now, with this one, I'm going to turn it a little bit so one point goes through first. Okay. So I have my platform, then I have the silicone mat to prevent it from cutting. I have my white piece of cardstock, and I have my die blade side down, and then I have my top plate. I set it for 2D embossing because I want to emboss, and then I have it set at 0. Let's see. You can really see that silicone mat squish too. It's a lot of pressure. So you can see we've got a design in there. You can see the back. Let me get on the back here and just add a little bit of ink so you can see what that looks like. It's kind of cool. It's kind of nice, huh? And then you could also do the same on the front. Try to grab as much of the design as you can. I think I did a technique like this too. I'll look through my videos. I'm pretty sure I have a technique similar to this in one of my videos. I'll have to look through. But there is, oh no. Oh no. Continue without Gina K Designs. Okay, are we still on YouTube? Tell me if we're still on YouTube.
On my phone, it looks like we are.
Okay, good. We just had, for our friends on Facebook, we just lost our Facebook stream. Again, Facebook just being Facebook. So if you, we apologize for that if we lost you, but hopefully we still have everybody here on YouTube. I see YouTube coming in, so that's good. All right, so that is how you emboss with a die. So there's the one side. It is very it looks very Nordic. Doesn't that look like a Nordic sweater? Really pretty.
That's going to show up on a paranormal show.
This?
Yeah.
Why does it?
Or the other one. It looks like
This one?
something you'd be
Ghostly?
on, etched into a wall or something.
It does.
Proof of crafting in the Palladian system.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, so if we lost you, Facebook, we're sorry. Come on. Come, friends, and join us on YouTube. Most of our Facebook friends know if something goes wrong, they can find us on YouTube, so we'll see. All right, now let's talk about the Mini Intri-Cut. That is this little machine right here. I'll go to the front shot for a second. So this little machine is super light, easy to carry, very, very easy to use. And I want to show you how to use it. And I think I'm going to open up a brand new one just so that you can see how it comes. And some people say they have trouble getting a die to go through it, but I think I know what the problem is because it comes with 3 plates, but you don't need all 3 plates. And I believe some people are using it like the Cuttlebug, where they think they need all 3 plates and they don't. So let's talk about this. This is actually on sale right now. We took $30 off of this We're going to run this sale through Sunday. So this is normally $69.95. You can get it for $39.95. So if you want a little baby Intri-Cut, now is a great time to get it. But again, no pressure. It's just a fun machine to have, you know, to be able to take around the house with you. All right. So the first thing I want to show you, I'm going to open this up. We'll open it up together here. This is how it comes. And there are no instructions in this box because that's how easy it is to work. All right, on the box it tells you what's in here. It says 1 cutting and embossing machine, that's this. 2 clear 3mm platforms, that's these 2, and 1 clear 5mm platform, that's this one. Then the instructions are right here on the side of the box. So if you want to cut, which is what I do mostly with this, you do a 5mm thick plate and a 3mm thick plate. You have your paper and your cutting die, and then that's the configuration with the blade side down, and then you cut. If you want to emboss, now we don't have any small embossing folders in our collection, but some companies do, and if you have the old Cuttlebug ones, they came with little tiny embossing folders. You can use them with this configuration. But what some people are trying to do is use everything together, and they're not able to get it through the machine. So let's go ahead. Why am I shedding? Let's go ahead and pull this out. Here we go. Even down to this, because some people say that they have a hard time getting this out. I just stick my finger in here and pull this handle up, and then that will help you pull it out a little bit. Actually, let me pull these plates out first. You can always say, get your son or your grandson, your husband. Let's pull these plates out first. Yeah, I can see why it's a little tricky. Let's just turn it that way. There we go. That was easier. Let's turn it upside down. All right, we've got the plates out. Now, these plates stick together, so sometimes people think there's only 2 plates too. But there's actually a total of 3 plates. So people think sometimes that that's the 2 plates, but there are actually 2 plates here that you have to peel apart. All right, so you've got 3 plates. The thick one is like your platform, and then the thin ones are your top plates. And you only need 1 when you're die cutting. So that's kind of a thing that a lot of people don't realize, and then they can't figure out how to get it to work. Okay, so this handle is already on there. It doesn't come off or anything like that. There is no suction on the bottom of the baby, but there are little rubber feet that you can clean with alcohol if they get like embossing powder or anything on there. Now, this will save your life. It really will. It'll make this machine work so well. Get yourself either a double grip mat. This is our double background grip mat. Get yourself one of these. If you don't have one of these and you want to do it today, get 2 of our background stamps and just lay them face down onto your laminated counter or your quartz counter, your granite counter, whatever kind of counter you have that's solid, or your glass mat, all right? And put that mat down there first, and then put your baby Intri-Cut on top, okay? And open it. Just want to make sure that the bottom feet, okay? That helps keep it in place. Otherwise, these little die cutting machines, and it's not just ours, it's lots of them, they can be squirrely. So as you're cutting, they're like moving around like this, and it's making it hard for the piece of cardstock and the die to go through. But if you get it onto one of these mats and you open it, it solves all your problems, okay? It really does. It solves your problem. So just like any other machine, you can use this for anything up to about 3, and I don't have a ruler here, but I believe the opening, it should say how big the opening is, 3¼ so 3¼ inches. So this doesn't work with the master layouts. It works with some of the pieces in the master layouts, but it doesn't work for the big frames. It can work for all your foliage kind of dies and your leaves and your ornament toppers and your Christmas trees, and it'll work for like this die. That will go through, the ones that come with the embossing folders. It works with everything except those big rectangles and those big large panels and those cover plates. It won't work for those. It's just too small. This is really a travel machine. When I go on my crafting retreats with my friends, I bring this machine. I bring some of my favorite flower stamps and coloring stencils and dies. And I bring my Misty and a black ink pad. And that's what I do the entire weekend. I just stamp greetings, I stamp flowers, I color, and I cut using the mini Intri-Cut. And when I'm done, I've got tons of bits and pieces and words, phrases that I can use for future cards. And then when I come home, I get my big Intri-Cut and I do all my master layout stuff, and I can assemble a million beautiful cards. So that's really what this was meant for. It wasn't meant to be your main die cutting machine. It was meant to be your accent, the one that travels into the family room so you can be part of everything on football Sundays, but actually you're just sitting there die cutting and doing that kind of thing. All right, so you're going to put you're going to always cut into the thick one, all right? You're going to put your piece of cardstock down. And then you're going to put your die on there, and then you're going to put your thin plate on top. And then just put your hand on the top and send it through. Easy peasy. See how nice that cut? No problem at all. You're never going to have marks in this top plate. You're only going to have marks in your thick platform, your bottom platform, okay? Now, if you have a small embossing folder, then you don't need this thick platform. You're going to do these two platforms and put your little tiny embossing folder. Only 2D, not 3D, only 2D mini embossing folders can go in here. You do it the same way you put the paper into your embossing folder in between the two skinny plates, and then you run it through, and you'll be able to emboss with those tiny little cuddle bug folders that used to come with the machine, stuff like that. I do believe that Sizzix has small embossing folders. Some companies have embossing folders that are like borders. We're planning on doing some of those in the future, and they will work perfectly in this machine. But you just can't fit a big embossing folder in here. The opening's just too small. But you want a small opening, right? You want a small machine for travel and for doing stuff in other rooms. Just makes it easy. Do I have any room on here? I'll cut out a bird just to cut one more for you. Again, this is my thick platform on the bottom. And then I'm choosing one, just one. If you try to use all three of them, you're never going to get it to go through. And then put your hand on the top, having your grippy mat down here, and that'll just go right through. Stampin' Up! Has some. That's good to know. So Stampin' Up! Has some small embossing folders too. So probably some of you have some of the smaller ones in your collection. Can you turn the die up and cut into the die plate? Well, you can if you want. I mean, what I would do is if you wanted to turn it over, well, I like to always turn the bottom one over each time, but here I have the sandwich that we just did. If you want to flip it over and do it blade side up, you certainly can, if that's what you mean. I just don't think I would cut into this platform, just because it's, I mean, I wouldn't cut into the, I wouldn't cut into the top plate. I would only cut into the bottom one. This is thicker and it doesn't warp. You see how thick that is? It's 5 millimeters thick. This is 3 millimeters, which is more like your Spellbinders plates and your Cuttlebug plates, your Big Shot plates. This one is more likely to warp over time, so you can keep turning that over if you want. Plus, if you only die cut, then you already have a built-in backup. The other thing that you can do with this, I haven't tried the silicone mat with this. I don't think it would work, and you can't turn up and down the pressure. So if you needed some more pressure, you would have to use a shim, although I have not met a die in our collection that won't cut easily through this little machine. I used our grippy mat. Oh, you used the grippy mat, Judy? That's great. Yeah, doesn't it work great? Will there ever be an electric Intri-Cut? No, we're not going to do any more electric machines other than our fuse. Electric is really complicated because you need to get all kinds of certifications for it. And then because we're an international company and we ship to Europe, to the UK, to Australia, they each have different plugs and you have to have different voltage for those. And we're just too small of a company to do that. The fuse, we could do that because there isn't a million fuse-like machines out there. There's really only one that's similar to ours. But for die cutting machines, there's already the Anna Griffin and there's the Gemini and there's other ones out there. And then people use Crickets and you know, all that kind of stuff. And we just wouldn't be able to afford to do all of those different types of machines. So we don't ever plan to do an electric one.
And question, did you cover this yet? Can you fix the warping of the magnetic mat?
No, you can't really fix the warping of that. Now, let me just say something about that. You can go to the front shot, Tom. Let me just say something about the magnetic mat. Some people have told me in the Facebook group, and I haven't tried this yet, but some people have told me in the Facebook group that they have taken their magnetic mat and they've put like a pillowcase on top of it, and with a not a super hot, but an iron that's just set at like the lowest temperature for hot, like that you would maybe iron lace or something like that, that they've ironed it and it has helped flatten it. I don't want to say go ahead and do that unless you're prepared to buy another one if it doesn't work or if it gets too melty or anything like that. But people in our Facebook group have said that they've ironed their mat and, you know, with fabric on top of it, and it's worked for them. So if you have, you know, if you're at the point where you're like, I can't use this anymore, it's just too warped, so I'm going to buy a new one, so let me try the ironing thing, you can let us know in our Facebook group if it worked for you. But I haven't tried that personally. The replacement mats aren't that expensive, and so as much die cutting as I get out of a mat, it always kind of feels good to get a new one for me. I really like it, and so I just go that route. But I have used the hot water for the regular mat, and that's worked really well for me. I did that one night. I was home, and I only had my warped mat, and I was just starting to struggle because it was too warped. So I did that technique. I let it cool for like 30 minutes, and then I was back in business again. So that technique I really like. But I also enjoy getting a new mat once in a while. They're made to be consumable, you know. I mean, you think about the pressure you're putting on it every time you die cut. Over time, that's going to wear out. Okay, so, all right. Did we cover everything, Tom?
I don't think there's anything else that you were going to do.
I don't think there is either. So we learned how to use the Intri-Cut today. Oh, okay. Joyce said the ironing worked for her. So there you go. There is a testimonial in the chat that the ironing worked. So that's good to know. Thank you for adding that. Oh, I see. I've ironed mine many times. Yeah. Okay. All right. Good. So there you go. Iron your magnetic mat. Just make sure you put something over it. I would put like a pillowcase or maybe a towel or something. A pillowcase is probably good, just so that you don't. I always worry about ruining the iron. The iron's more expensive than a mat, so you don't want anything to like stick to your iron. Okay, well. We're definitely going to give away a gift card, but before we do that, if you like today's video, and we certainly hope that you have, if you wouldn't mind giving it a thumbs up, that really does help our channel. It gets more people to be able to see how to use this machine. And if you're not subscribed yet, please hit the subscribe button and all notifications so you never miss another video. Now, if you're not a member of our Facebook group, we'd love to have you over there. The name of the group is Gina K Designs and Stamp TV Friends. Come on over and join us in our Facebook group. That's where we all share projects that we've made with our Gina K Designs products. You can find inspiration. Just type in the name of the product that you have, and lots of things will come up. And then a big shout out again to my lovely friend Brianne Loveland, who is in the chat, linking everything that I used today. Thank you once again, Brianne. But if you missed any of the links, you can find everything that I used today, including the Intri-Cut machine and the mini Intri-Cut, which is on sale now through Sunday for $39.95. Go to GinaKDesigns.com and you can find it all there. All right, Tom. Let's give away a $15 gift card to Gina K Designs. What do you say?
Okay. Here we go.
Come on in. Okay, there you go.
Drum roll, please. Let her rip. Today's winner is Sandra Middleton. Sandra Middleton 6391.
Yay, Sandra! Congratulations. You win a $15 Gina K Designs gift card. All you have to do is send your name and email address to info@GinaKDesigns.com and we will get that out to you. So give me a little bit. I will get the links to the different videos that I have pertaining to 2D, 3D, and die cutting. And I'll add those to the description on this YouTube video. Well, you guys, I hope you enjoyed today's video. I hope it was informative and you picked up a few tips and tricks. And even if you don't have the Intri-Cut, maybe some of those tips and tricks will work with the die cutting machine that you have. Thank you guys so much for joining us. Tom and I will be back on Tuesday night with another Stamp and Chat Live. In the meantime, stay safe and healthy. We love you all so very much. And we'll see you again real soon. Bye-bye.